Hello SLAPAFISH community, and welcome back to another World Tanks console video. So in this video, I got another tank review. So in this video, it's going to be the Sergeant Slaughter T54E2. Basically, it's a Tier 8 premium American heavy tank that actually gets an upgrade. Well, it gets two different guns. You can play, which is the single shot, which is right here, and the autoloading gun, which is right here. Now, after the tank comparison, there's going to be two replays. It's going to be a single shot first one, and the autoloader is going to be the second game, I think, if I remember that correctly. Now, the autoloader Sergeant Slaughter is right here, and it's going to be comparing to the 32A prototype. Okay, so basically, I brought the 32A prototype here to compare it to the autoloading Sergeant gun, and Sergeant Slaughter, is going to be compared to all of these, especially the 34 and the the T32. So 32's here because it's the tech tree variant, 32A prototype's here because it's a Tier 8 American autoloading heavy tank, and the 34's here is because it plays very similar to the Sergeant Slaughter in a whole. But let's get into the tank comparison. So, the T34 is by far the heaviest tank, but also has the best horsepower, only by 10 extra horsepower than the Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter actually has the best horsepower per ton, best forward speed, and the best reverse speed, which makes it the most mobile tank here. Also, it has track rotation is 30 degrees a second, which is the best here, but it does have the worst train resistance tied with the T34. But it has the fastest turret speed, which is 28 degrees a second. All of these tanks get a 105mm gun, except the T34, which gets a 120mm gun. Now, compared to the two autoloaders right here, is the Sergeant Slaughter has the longer reload time than the 38 prototype, but by the single shot, the 34 has the highest because, bigger caliber gun, and also 32 has the fastest reload. Also, 32 has the best aiming time with the T34 with the worst accuracy. Worst aim time. But the T34 actually has the best accuracy when the autoloading Sergeant has the worst accuracy. Now, I forgot to highlight this. So, Sergeant with the autoloader has the worst dispersion while moving the tank, and the 32 has the best. And the 34 actually has the best while rotating the turret dispersion, and the autoloading Sergeant has the worst. Now, all these things have 20 degrees of gun elevation and 10 degrees of gun depression, except the T34, which has 15 degrees of gun elevation. Now, both Sergeant Slaughter's guns does 360 damage, which is in the middle of the 34 and the T32 and the 32A prototype. Now, the penetration is okay at 226, which is better than the 32's, but worse than the T34. But the premium rounds are the worst by far in this comparison. And high explosive is all tied with the 32's, but the 34 actually has better high explosive pin. The Sergeant Slaughters actually have the best shell velocity, which is very nice. It helps with the accuracy of the tank. Now, the 34 actually has the worst reload time, rounds per minute, ammo count, and potential damage. As you can see, the DPM of the single shot is about 100 less than the 32, when the autoloader is really close to the 32A prototype. Now, the 32A prototype gets the best ammo here. Well, gets the most ammo here. And it also gets the highest potential damage at 16,320. Now, let's compare the two autoloaders' guns together. They both get 3 shots per round, as the 32A prototype hits for 320 and the Sergeant Slaughter hits for 360. Of course, the potential damage per clip would be higher than the 32A prototype. What also makes the autoloader on the Sergeant Slaughter tank. Better is for the interclip reload, which is 2.2 seconds. Okay, now we go to the armor of the turret. So, on paper, the 32A prototype has the worst turret armor. And in the game, yes it does. But on the Sergeant Slaughter is the only one that has a noticeable weak cupola. On the other tanks, like the 34, the 32, and the 38 prototype, the cupolas are very small and kind of armored. But on the Sergeant Slaughter, the cupola is huge and it's weak. Side armor is okay. It's 140. Very bad turn armor on the very bad on the back of the turn armor. Yes. Now the whole armor. So on paper, it's definitely the best hull here, and by my thinking, the 32 is the best. The 32 and the 32A prototype. Now, on the Sergeant Slaughter, the 152mm is only where the bottom plate and the top plate meet together. But on the rest of the tank, it's 152 at the front where the lower plate and the top plate come together. Then right above that, it goes down from 114 to anywhere from 76mm at the front. So it's kind of weak. It's just like the E5's hull, but with less armor. Fair plays a lot like the E5. And the back side armor is pretty good to side sweep with. Nothing's really going to overmatch you. Now the back armor sucks. Don't want to get hit by high explosive back there. If your range is 390, it's okay. Better than the 32A prototype and better than the 34, but not better than 32. Signal range is all the same at 745. Hit points are all the same except for the 32 that has 50 more hit points. Concealment is in the middle of the T34 and the T32s. Now, the silver boost is 50% on all three tanks except the 34, and XP boost is 10%, which is completely normal for a tier 8. Normal boost for a tier 8 tank is 50% silver and 10% XP boost, so it's very normal. This is a very normal boost, so there's no reason to really buy the tank over it. Which is very interesting is the 32A prototype gets 5% XP boost, which is actually pretty cool. So, that's it. Tank comparison between the 32A prototype, the Sergeant Slaughter Autoloader, and the Sergeant Slaughter single shot, the 34 and the 32. Now let's actually go jump into some gameplay of the tank. Okay, so we spawned on El Haluf, and we're top tier, if I believe correctly. So, we're also using the single shotgun. And so yeah, as I said during the tank comparison, if you watched it or just skipped to this point, this is basically a E5 that's at tier 8. Basically what it is. That's what it really does feel like, especially when you put the single shotgun on. And when we put the autoloader gun on, I will tell you more about it. It's like what it actually compares to. But this tank really plays like the T34, and it really plays, and it just feels like an E5 at tier 8. That's all it does. The lower plate is really weak. Yeah, I don't actually remember the lower plate's thickness, so I'm going to look it up right quick. So the lower plate is 100. There's a space where it's 127 millimeters thick. There's a place where it's 114, 110, 101. So depending where you hit, less armor or more armor, depending where you hit on this tank. Now, this tank actually can't go to gun rammer. Don't know why, but there's some tanks in the game that has an autoloader as a package, and there's there's some tanks in the game that get a autoloader package and a single shot package. For the single shot, it'll get the gun rammer, and in some cases, you can't equip the gun rammer When you can equip the gun rammer on the single shot package, but when you try to equip the auto-loading package, you can't. But in other instances, when the autoloader, there's an autoloader and a single shot package, you can equip the autoloader. You can equip the single shot with an gun rammer. Then when you put the autoloader on, it gives you a gun rammer. So you can keep the gun rammer on there with an autoloader. So reasonings why they didn't put it on here, I don't know. I have no idea. So that leaves you more open to put another piece of equipment. So basically the equipment I put on here is a vertical stabilizers, code optics, and crew vents. Now my crew, speaking of crew, is basically a nice crew. It has adrenaline rush, swimming lessons, controlled impact, off-road driving, smooth ride, dead eye, snapshot, brothers in arms, mentor repairs, sixth sense, and it's training clutch braking. So it's a pretty nice crew, and it has 12 perks on it, and it is a rank 9 crew. So it's nice perk. And also you can see the upper glacis plate was actually getting pinned by the Tiger P. So this is kind of how it plays with the 34. 34 is the upper plate, like the hull of the tank is just weak, so you just want to stay hull down most of the time and just hide your hull. On this tank, you kind of gotta play like that, but sometimes you just side scrape and just bounce a lot of shots. And if I remember correctly, I do bounce a lot of shots in the next game I do play in this tank with the Autoloader, so hopefully I captured the right gameplay. So we'll see about that when we get to the other tank. But between the two guns, I actually like the single shot better. I just like it better. It really, I don't know. Single shot just feels better. I just kind of like the DPM of the single shot. And it just feels more accurate than the autoloader. So it's my take. And also, I know this is a top tier gameplay. When this tank is top tier, it just dominates. It's good. But when you get bottom tier, when you get bottom tier in this tank, there was one game, I think it was the game before this one, where I was out there in front, I stayed hull down, and I was bouncing tier 10 shots. As long as you don't let them hit your cupola, and you stay hull down, you're pretty much impenetrable if they don't aim for your cupola. So yeah, I was also pinning like tier 10s in the front, so it was kind of good. Penetration's okay on this tank. Premium penetration sucks, but hey, it's fine. But there's a dragon. Now I'm just gonna snap him and boom, he's dead. And there's a T59, easy target since has his hole out in the open. And we're also looking down on him. I hit him for 389. The highest I've ever hit for this tank was 414, I think it was, or 421. I think it might have been 421, and we just hit that T29 for 298, which is probably on the very low end of the spectrum where we can roll. Yeah, it's really close. The lowest you can roll on this tank is 270, and the highest you can roll is 450. So in both of those instances, I told you, like, really, really close you can roll. Where I rolled really close. Now, this LT432 is going to come out in the open. I'm actually getting pushed back at 112. Hello, 112. I did hit the L432, but it went into his tracks, and now I'm just going to take him out of the game. So, that was a victory. Did 4,000 damage, 344 assisted, and only bounced 390 damage, if I read that correctly. Now, if my game ever loads, yeah, 390. Got top of the leaderboards, and if I remember correctly, we fired 16 rounds. Yeah, we fired 16 rounds. All 16 rounds hit, and 14 of them penetrated. And now it's to the next game. And yes, I did say the right game, so good. And if I remember correctly, I believe we are mid-tier. I think we're mid-tier. No, there's a Hellcat 105 over there, so we're top tier. But last game, we were getting pinned by a Tiger P because we were out in the open, and he had shots at our lower plate, and he had shots in our hole. So this time, I'm going to show you what the armor can do when you side scrape, because side scraping in this tank. So, if anybody ever plays the E5 and you know how the E5 looks, like the whole of it, it's like a boat shape. So it's really trolly. The side of the armors are really trolly. Like on most tanks, the side armor is like usually flat. But on usually American heavy tanks or American medium tanks, the armor on the side kind of curves in a little. And it forms like a boat shape. That's what I'm talking about, boat shape. And so it makes the armor kind of thick on the side. Especially when you side scrape, and it's right below the track, so they got to go through your space armor, and they got to go through a thicker part of your armor. So basically, when you're fighting, like, these tanks, when they're side scraping, you really want to aim up high as possible. Like, higher on the side armor of this tank, like American tanks, on the sides, are better. Lower, you have a lot of chance to just bounce your shell, get absorbed, or anything like that. But higher is better on these tanks, on the side armor. And I don't believe the T-29 has like a boat shape hold, so it's okay. So right here, I was like thinking, it's like, hey, could I pull out like straight and they would just bounce off me? Then when I was doing that, then I seen a Tiger 2 just pull up behind me. So I was like, okay, let's go fight the Tiger 2. Now the single shot actually feels really nice. And the first time I drove it, I was like, wow, this actually really does feel like a 32A prototype. And I love the 32A prototype. 32A prototype was fun. And yeah, I hadn't played that tank in a while. I need to. But yeah, this tank has more armor than the 32A prototype, especially in its cupola and especially in its turret. But the 32A prototype doesn't have a giant cupola like this one does. But when you're side scraping on the right side, like I was doing earlier, when you're side scraping, they can easily just hit your cupola, and when you pull out, they'll just hit your cupola and make your side armor useless. But when you side scrape on the left side, like on the left side of a building, your cupola, since your cupola is on the right side, and when you side scrape on the left side, they can't hit your cupola, so you're a lot weaker, lot stronger when you side scrape on the left side. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's better to side, if you have an option during battle, which most times you don't, but if you do get an option to side scrape on the left side, do it. Because they won't have the cupola shot, like when you side scrape on the right side. So now this game's actually pretty tied up. We bounce almost 1400 damage. We dealt 2000 damage. But, as I said before, this game's only halfway done. Because we took out 7, they took out 7. So here's an instance where the autoloader just comes in handy right here. That's one shot there. And now this shot actually bounces off the T-29's upper deck because I got really close to it and just didn't aim downward. And also I couldn't overmatch the T-29 because, you know what, I actually have no idea how much armor the T-29 has on its garage thing. Garage? No, engine deck. Why did I say garage? I don't know. But anyway, it has 38 millimeters, so if I had a 120 millimeter gun, then yeah, I could be overmatching the back of the T-29. So yeah, T34 would not have bounced there because the giant caliber gun it has. So anyway, right now I'm going to the left side over here because I know they're over there in the K1, J1 area. So it's like, okay, if I go over here and go to the far left side of this, sitting right there on the line, and try to use my gun depression, and if I catch somebody out in the open, I can just hold down and just put 3 shots into them and just destroy people. And as I see, there's a Leo over there and there's a Patriot over here. Now, the shots on the Patriot are going to get really lucky because look at that. Not even really aiming all the way, but all 3 shots actually connect. So yeah, that was actually an instant where the autoloader just did what I told it to do. So that was really, really nice, especially at that distance. And we didn't aim all the way, so that was nice. Also, I'm running out of standard ammo. So, after this clip, I'm going to need a premium rounds. I need the premium rounds. So, it's Leo over there, I think is a one-shot. The Patriot's almost a one-shot for me. And the Chiri? Yeah, Chiri, I could clip them out with 3 shots. So, now I just got to find the tank destroyer, which I believe is the Iron Rain or the Borsig. I know it's a Borsig. Oh, it's Iron Rain. Okay. So, now we just put 1 shot, 2 shot, and 3 shot. And the autoloaders proves handy. So, there's a lot of instances where the autoloader and the single shot has its role. So, your job is to figure out which gun you like better, or you just rotate between the 2 guns. Play 1 match with the autoloader and play 1 match with the single shot. I more prefer the single shot, or when this tank actually comes out again, where it's just a single shot and it's just called the Renegade, you can have this tank as the autoloader version, the other tank with a single shot, and that tank will more than likely have a gun rammer on it. So yeah, that's it. As soon as this game loads, I'll tell you the in-game stats. Made 130,000 silver, 4,735 silver. I did 4,735 damage and blocked almost 2k, aced the tank, and top of the leaderboards. And that's it for me. If you like this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also remember to SLAPAFISH because why would you not? And peace out. See ya.